It is stumps then on day two at the Sydney Cricket Ground. Can you call a team that's ahead at this point? We're not sure. Maybe Mike Hussey and Akash Chopra will on ESPN Cricket for match days. We look back at another attritional day of Test match cricket. Call it that, at least for the last hour of play that we saw after a very picturesque opening partnership between Rohit Sharma and Shubman Gill. Looked like it was going to be India's day had they managed to get to stumps unscathed. But Australia got a couple of wickets. They're still 242 ahead. Mike Hussey, would Australia take that? Are they in front at the end of day two, or is it still even?
Yeah, I don't know. It's a tough question to answer. I think pretty even at this stage. I think India will be pretty happy with their day today. They got right back into the Test match. Australia, we're probably on top after day one. Only 2 wickets down, 160 odd runs on the board. Steve Smith and Marnus Labuschagne at the crease. They would have been looking to bat all day, but I thought the Indian bowlers did a superb job, really, to bowl Australia out. I think they took 8 for about 120, 130 runs. Great effort from the Indians. So they would have been feeling pretty happy with themselves. I reckon at the end of the Australian first innings, Steve Smith, what a magnificent century from him. You cannot keep a great player down for too much longer or for too long at all. And then that opening partnership, as you mentioned, it was fantastic to watch. Rohit Sharma and Shubman Gill, wow, 2 magnificent players to watch. They both played beautifully, but Australia then just got their little foot in the door. Got those 2 wickets and really clamped it up at the end. So it's going to be an intriguing day tomorrow. Can't wait for it already.
Yeah, I mean, it looked like they'd done all the hard work, Akash. They'd seen through the break at tea. They'd managed to see out the new ball, 17, 26 overs. Then bang, bang, both openers fall in pretty quick time of each other. And the next 15, 20 overs, not many runs were scored. So how would you assess where both teams stand? India would have loved to be 90 without loss, but they find themselves 96 for 2.
Yeah, they've lost 1 wicket too many, I feel, because 96 for 1 is a fair return. You are playing Test cricket, so you will lose a wicket or two. But when you look at the modes of those 2 dismissals, whether it was the cotton ball of Rohit Sharma or a ball that was fairly wide for Shubman Gill, one of them can actually go down as a very soft dismissal. So, and after doing all the hard work, you would believe that, or rather, you would hope that they'll go on to score a big one. And secondly, I think another very important part of this entire conversation is that India is playing a batsman less. There is Hanuma Vihari and then Rishabh Pant and Ravindra Jadeja. However good Jadeja has been, Pant can bat. He actually batted beautifully last time around when India played Test cricket here. The fact is, India still has to bat last. Let's not keep that out of our sight at all. And the pitch is also is starting to misbehave just a little, and it's only the second day. Some balls are keeping a little low. Some are actually climbing on you. So we all felt that this is a very flat pitch. It is a good batting surface, but it is also showing some signs of deterioration. So it's tough to call. I completely agree with Huss. It is impossible to call who's ahead. But that's the case with modern day cricket, Ronak, because yesterday, who would have thought that Australia would go on to lose 8 wickets for 110 runs, and then even when Steve Smith scores a century?
That's the thing with the two of you. You will always equate what a good score would be depending on the times that you all played in, which, dare I say, at the expense of offending the current cricketers, was perhaps more challenging. But if you look at how India have batted today, and you look at how run scoring was hard towards the end of the day, Akash said on our tea time show that he felt Australia were at least 100 behind with what they should have got on this surface. Now, if you look at it at the end of day 2, is 338 still 100 below par for you, or is it just about par looking at how these batting sides tend to cancel each other out?
Yeah, it's a good question. I think Australia will be disappointed to get bowled out for 337. After being in such a strong position, 2 for 200 they were at one stage, to get bowled out at that target, that total would have been disappointing for them. They would have been hoping and expecting to go on and get over 400 for the first time against India for a very long time. Having said that, I do think it's a very competitive total. And the reason why I say that, I completely agree with what Akash was saying there. There's certainly been some variable bounce in this pitch already, and you'd only anticipate that to get a little bit more, aggressive as the Test match wears on. Plus, Nathan Lyon, you'd expect to come into the game a fair bit as well. You'd expect some footmarks to open up for him to work into as well. So I think it's going to be a fascinating day tomorrow, and in particular, that first probably session is going to give us a real good indication about whether this Australian first innings score was in fact a very, very good one or probably just below par.
Tell you, he was looking a good 150, 200 below par when Shubman Gill was going, and then he got out. We'll come to the wicket in just a bit. But Mike Hussey, I don't reveal what you generally text me, but I will on this occasion. You've got a new favorite player to watch these days.
I love watching Shubman Gill play. You know, I really do. He's a classical batsman. Plays beautiful shots. I love his defense as well. He's like nice and solid, presents that full face of the bat. He drives beautifully straight down the ground, but he's also even better off the back foot with those punches through the offside. And even when the bowler wants to bowl some short stuff, he played a couple of imperious pull shots as well. So I love the way he goes about it, but I also love his temperament at the crease. You know, in Australia, we've obviously got the likes of Labuschagne and Smith who are dancing around all over the place and calling really loud and got all these intricate sort of taps and, you know, movements that can get quite annoying. But Shubman Gill, he's just calm at the crease, going about his business quietly in a professional manner. And gee, it's refreshing, and I just love watching him play. So yes, I can say he's definitely my new favourite player to watch.
He's 1.5 tests old, Akash. Yes, it's one thing. Everyone can see the gifted stroke play that he's got, but that sense of calm, that assurance for a player that's into his second test, that's something.
It's unbelievable because see, all of us when we grew up, especially in our side of the world, we actually think about Australia as the final frontier. A frontier that is very difficult to conquer. We have seen Indian teams going there and capitulating. We have seen a good batsman struggle there. And you talk about Rahul Dravid. He struggled on his first tour. Actually, every single Indian batsman, barring Sachin Tendulkar, struggled on their first tour to Australia. So however much we talk about the decline in batting quality and all of that, but this Australian bowling lineup is as good as you would ever see. These three fast bowlers plus Nathan Lyon, this is one of the top fast bowling, or rather bowling attacks, all-time bowling attacks. So for someone like Shubman, who's just playing his third innings, he looks assured, he's decisive, he's positive, he's completely at home. And once you see all those qualities and the ones that Huss has mentioned already, you see a making of like a phenomenal player who's going to be playing test cricket, or rather all form cricket for India for the next 10, 12, 15 years. He's a young kid. So we are just watching a superstar, a batting superstar, taking baby steps right now in international cricket.
Yeah, let's build him up. I know we shouldn't get too ahead of ourselves, but this time let's get ahead of ourselves. That's how good it was. It's been fun to watch Shubman Gill, and it would have been fun to watch him for a bit longer. Who knows what could have happened had he played on day 3. But if you listen to Akash Chopra very carefully on ESPN Cricket for Matchday, which I suggest you should, on our Tea Time show, he said something. He said one glaring observation that he has as an opener is that he's besides the ball. Akash, you said that at tea, and that prompts the outside edge, which is exactly how he got out. Take me through his wicket.
Well, he has this tendency, and this is also a byproduct of playing a lot of T20 white ball cricket, where staying besides the ball is far better suited for you to be a stroke maker as compared to going behind the ball. So whenever you see, there is obviously a lot to like, because every time he's besides the ball, it's not that he's nicking one or the ball is going through the bat and pad. He's got the ability to keep the good balls out. But when you're so besides the ball all the time, then he will be asked those probing questions. We've already seen him falling to a ball that's slightly outside off. I remember first innings in Melbourne, now the first innings in Sydney. That's the kind of line of attack you would find against him very often. And he'll have to figure out a way. But then, as we all know, these are early days. Most international cricketers, when they come, they're work in progress. And then they become successful because they know how to evolve into better batsmen, and that's what we will find with Shubman as well, because the basics are in place. He's not out of sorts. Even with being besides the ball, he looks assured. So if he's ticking a lot of boxes, a couple of them will get ticked as the time progresses.
Yeah, it's still early days, Huss, but perhaps that half century resulted in a slight lapse of concentration.
Well, it's hard to say. I do agree with Akash there, though. You know, that's going to be the one area that opposition teams are going to start to look at, just outside that off stump. And that's why he can play so beautifully through the offside, because he does stay slightly leg side of the ball, and yeah, there's a bit of risk there, but he has shown that he can do it and score runs and survive against one of the best bowling attacks in the world in tricky conditions. At the MCG, it was not easy for batting. There was pace, there was bounce. He was still able to look assured on the surface. So a good sign for me is that he's still got the ability to defend right in front of his eyes and also straight drive the ball, hit the ball through mid-off and then past the bowler. That's a good sign for me. But you're right. Every batsman probably has an area where they could be vulnerable. We think about Will Pucovski, for example. He looks a fantastic young player for Australia as well. A very simple and basic technique, but he's someone that goes the other way. He shuffles across the crease. So he might be vulnerable to balls coming back in and perhaps getting him LBW. So all these players, yes, no one's perfect. Well, maybe Sachin was perfect. Maybe Brian Lara was perfect, but not many players in the world are perfect. And everyone's going to have an area that they're going to have to work on and keep tabs on throughout their career.
All right. Well, if Australia are going to go on to win this or even press an advantage, Steve Smith's first innings 100 is going to look even better now. Not that it wasn't, given everything going into it, the conversation on how on earth is Smith not getting runs against India. This Test 100 we saw with the celebration meant a lot to him.
It certainly did. There was almost a bit of anger in that celebration, which, I think he's been copping a little bit of stick from the public out there and some of the press that have been writing some negative stuff about him. And he reads everything. So I think he even sort of mentioned in a little interview that it's just motivated him a little bit more to prove the doubters wrong. But you should never, ever, ever doubt a champion player. And Steve Smith has been a champion player for Australia for a long period of time. Okay, he missed out in 3 innings. That's all, just 3 innings, and then showed his class. I thought the way he played on the first evening when he came out, he looked positive, he looked confident, he wanted to score runs, not just hang in there and survive and play, just play dot balls. He hit a couple of nice straight drives down the ground. He looked to be really positive against Ashwin and use his feet to him. And today it was much the same. He looked very, very determined to get a big score, and I'm sure this 100 would mean a hell of a lot to him.
Yeah, I mean, the fact that he's got out cheaply more than once was a pleasant surprise to Indian viewers, Akash. But it was this sort of Steve Smith innings that we're used to from previous tours to Australia, where the only way you think you're going to get him out is a direct hit from the boundary.
Yeah, that was magical actually, because he was trying to steal a run. There was perhaps like 1 3/4 run available there, but for any other fielder, it was an easy 2. But with Ravindra Jadeja, he's got a rocket arm, 1.5 stump to aim at, and he gets it right. He's now he's inflicted 5 dismissals, 4 with the ball and 1 with that throw. But then Steve Smith, he's been that's the thing with these guys. When they miss out, he's not just a modern day great. He's one of the greatest Test batsmen that the world has ever seen, and he's still in the middle of his perfect Test career. That every time they fail, they inch closer to success. It's not that they're going to keep failing. It's an aberration if it happens once in like a blue moon. But more often than not, they will get it right. And when they do, the difference between him and say someone else who would throw it away at 50, 60, or maybe at 90, the fact is he will carry on. He was trying to dominate and play with a lot of authority, even with the batting, even while batting with number 11. So that's the kind of confidence or experience that he has. And once he gets going, now that's the problem. From an Indian point of view, he is likely to get more runs. And not just in this series, but in this Test match. There is another innings to play. And that gives Australia a slight advantage, because 338, they could have got 425 and batted India perhaps out of this game. That only 2 results were possible, Australia win or a draw. India is still very much in it, but Steve Smith is the difference with regards to how much India will have to chase last, irrespective of what they score right now.
Yeah, I mean, when they came in after lunch as well, he made 55 of the 89 runs that Australia did. Otherwise, you're looking at something even around about 300 or maybe lesser. Ended finally with Ravindra Jadeja's run out. And quietly, it's been a significantly contributing day for Ravindra Jadeja, hasn't it been, Akash? As an all-rounder, Ashwin has gone wicketless in this innings. He managed to get a wicket of Labuschagne when you felt the wicket was never going to come. He's managed to get a couple of lower-order batsmen, the run-out too. The all-round package of Jadeja is continuing to contribute.
And very interesting, actually, because Rahane made a choice of not bowling him at all, actually, on day 1. We were all slightly critical of the same. Today, he went to him before he went to Ravichandran Ashwin. And on a surface like this, on a slow surface, I think the surface is demanding for you to be a slightly quicker in the air. Now, it's easier said than done. Ravichandran Ashwin, he operates between, say, 80 to 85 Ks. That's his optimum speed. He can increase it for a ball or 2, maybe a spell or 2, but then it's not possible to just stay at that 90 plus speed forever without compromising on quality in terms of just the consistency and the penetration. But for Ravindra Jadeja, that comes naturally to him. He is always in high 90s. So this is the kind of surface that suits his craft, and therefore, 1, he'll be economical. Two, he'll keep asking those probing questions. It is not a turner, so you don't really need to turn a mile. Just turn enough and just make everything play. So that's what he's been doing, getting the basics right. And Marnus Labuschagne's dismissal also is just an example of how extra speed in the air and little fizz of the surface can induce a bad shot, because the same ball from, say, Ashwin at 82 Ks, he would have managed it off the back foot, but not with Jadeja bowling at 95 Ks.
Yeah, it's the same point you made as well on Astam's show yesterday, Has, that Jadeja might be the sort of spinner that'll get a little more out of this Sydney surface. And we know that he's in this team for both skill sets, but you think his primary role actually in Test match cricket is to get wickets. In that regard, this is a Ravindra Jadeja that continues to improve in Test match cricket.
Oh, he's been outstanding. I think his batting has really improved out of sight in the last 18 months. But from a bowling perspective, I agree. I think his bowling is suited to this pitch. He's a little bit quicker on this slow surface, and he's difficult for the right-handers to play because he's always attacking the stumps, and some balls will skid on, and so he's a chance of getting LBW. But he's also a chance just to sort of turn one away from the right-hander sharply as well and catch an outside edge, like what we saw with Marnus Labuschagne. So difficult for the right-handers to play, and he has actually got quite a bit of turn on this pitch. So he'll get a lot of confidence out of today, no doubt, and also that'll help him in the second innings as well. But I'd also like to touch on the fielding. That was an unbelievable piece of fielding. Quick to the ball, the technique of where he gets his feet into place, and the excellent throw. That hit the bottom of middle stump. In my view, he's the best fielder, all-round fielder in the world. I was trying to rack my brain to see who could possibly rival him, and I thought Glenn Maxwell's up there, but I think Jadeja's probably still got him covered. I think Ben Stokes has taken some amazing catches and a pretty good fielder as well, but I still believe Jadeja's probably number one in my book.
That's one of the many things Mike Hussey's taught him in the Chennai Super Kings. But
honestly, I also feel that this is also trying to get ahead of ourselves. We love doing that. So if India were to draw or win this Test match, Ravindra Jadeja will turn up with a man of the match performance, or at least somewhere close to that kind of performance. Because for India to from here to actually stay in the game or get ahead, I think Ravindra Jadeja with the bat, with the ball, is going to be the most critical member of this Indian cricket team.
Yeah, I don't mind that call, because you can imagine Jadeja on a day 3 end or day 4 sort of surface enjoying himself. You never know, and maybe his runs will come in handy in what looks like a batting side that would need the batting of Jadeja. So let's try and get comments on what will happen on day 3. As it tends to be said at the SCG, the day 3 is when the Test match moves on. You get an idea of where things are going. What are you expecting from this surface on day 3 with the bounce that we saw towards the end on day 2?
Well, generally speaking, on day 3 is a beautiful day for batting at the SCG, but there has been some variable bounce. A couple that have bounced more than Pujara expected. He also had to get his bat down low and keep a couple of those low ones out as well. Expect a little bit more turn from Nathan Lyon. So I think it will be challenging conditions for the batsman. It should still play quite well, though, to be fair. And if you bat well and you look to be confident and decisive with your footwork, you should be able to score runs. It's going to be interesting to see the approach of Rahane and obviously Pujara as well coming into tomorrow. They obviously just dropped anchor for that last half an hour or even 45 minutes of play. They didn't worry about the runs at all. It was just about getting through to stumps 2 wickets down. Tomorrow, they've almost got to change that mindset a little bit. Yes, it's about batting time and occupying the crease, but they've got to be scoring some runs too. If they just look to survive and don't go anywhere and don't score any runs, Australia might nip in with a couple of wickets, and then suddenly they could get a couple other quick ones, and then India will find themselves well behind in the Test match. So, yeah, they're going to have to play well tomorrow, India. Australia bowled well tonight, and they'll come out really hard in that first session tomorrow to try and make early inroads. So, fascinating first hour of play. If India can get through that first hour of play still 2 down, then they'll be hoping to kick on and bat for, I think probably they'll try and bat for as long as they can. Try and bat the whole day if possible. From Australian perspective, they'll be wanting to pick up a couple of early wickets and really get into that middle order of India and hopefully bowl India out as quickly as they can.
There's so much has happened in this series already, Akash. So many headlines, so many storylines that we tend to forget that Cheteshwar Pujara has got scores of 43, 0, 17 and 3. Man who was player of the tournament, player of the series last time India were here, he's due a big one.
Exactly. So he's like that our Steve Smith, so to speak, that we expect runs from him. But the only thing is that when he scores, they will come at a certain rate. He's not going to just run away with the game. He'll allow you to be still engaged in a contest for a very long duration of time. He'll tie you down. He'll wear you down. That's how Pujara bats, and therefore others around him, they need to keep the scoreboard ticking as well, because Huss is absolutely spot on. Australia went about say 3.2 runs per over. India is moving at around 2.5, or rather less than 2.5 runs per over. And if you continue in the same vein for too long, then you're not making progress. And that's what we found on day one of this test series in Adelaide, where India actually batted the entire session, but really did not make any significant progress. And then Australia was guilty of doing the same for three more occasions, actually. First innings in Adelaide, 2 innings in Melbourne. This was the only innings where they actually came out with a lot of intent and took the game forward. I think that's critical. That's important, because for India to actually stay ahead, they need to bat 5 sessions. They batted 1, bat 3 more, and a session more. Of course, then their noses are fairly ahead in this game. But if you don't go that far, make sure whatever time you bat, you're still scoring enough for you to stay in the game. Don't stay too behind, because in my books, India has to go ahead. India has to take a lead to win this test match.
All right. Now we're going to hedge our bets with Mike Hussey, because we're going to get him back on day 5. Let's ask him if there's going to be a game on day 5. We've seen day 3 finishes, day 4 finishes. Something tells me this one's going to go 5 days, huh? So we'll have you towards the end, I hope.
Definitely. This is definitely going into the 5th day. Well, my prediction is it's going into the 5th day. I think the bowlers have to work a lot harder for their wickets than they have in the first 2 test matches. Yes, there is a little bit of variable bounce there, but not enough to really just blow through an opposition team. If you want to hang in there and survive for a while, you can. So it's actually quite nice. It's quite nice to see the bowlers having to feel what Test cricket's really all about and have to work hard for their wickets and be patient for longer periods of time. So, yeah, I think it'll definitely go into day 5. I think it's going to be an exciting finish. And I think Akash is right. India have to get a lead on that first innings, because traditionally speaking, it does get quite difficult to bat and chase down a score in the last innings of a test match here at the SCG. So, yeah, it's going to be a fascinating couple of days.
Yep, they're 242 behind. If they have to get a lead, you think they'll have to bat for a large part, if not the entirety of day 3. We'll get Akash Chopra's thoughts on day 3. Mike Hussey will join you on what looks like an inevitable day 5 finish of this test match. But stranger things have already happened in this series alone. Let's hope we get some cracking cricket over the next few days. So do join us. Big thank you to Mike Hussey and Akash Chopra. And do join us tomorrow for our tea time show on ESPN Cricket for Matchday. Viewers in India, make sure you catch clips, highlights as they go down on ESPNcricinfo.com and the mobile app. Viewers in the subcontinent too. There's plenty of good stuff to watch, including a Shubman Gill package that you could watch on loop if you'd like, as this test match approaches day 3. Thanks for watching. See you tomorrow.